Well, welcome back to Pinsari Basketball. The last live got cut off because I inadvertently, very much an accident. I'm not a hockey fan. This is not a hockey stream. I accidentally streamed a little bit of that hockey game because the TV was on for the draft. So whoops, my bad. If anyone out there on YouTube is listening, I'm really sorry. I still please do not shadow ban me. I really put a lot of work into this channel. I work really hard. Please don't take away my super chats from the last fuck. This has been kind of a slow month financially, so it kind of sucks to lose that live. They just straight up deleted it. Freedom is a must, Rob. You're quoting a rap lyric. Lock. Yo, whoa. Freedom is a must. Are you quoting Big Lean? Shit. Shut your TV off after. Yo, honestly, I could have just taken it off the stream. I messed up. Anyways, let's why did they delete it? Because so to those of you who don't know, who are going to come into this completely cold, I streamed the Raptors the NBA draft lottery on television. I did not know I couldn't do that, and apparently I think I can do that. I don't think they caught it for that. But when the draft lottery ended, I kept the screen on, not thinking, and I started looking at another screen, and suddenly hockey started playing, and they immediately cut it off. So anyways, to those of you who are just catching up, the Raptors lose their pick, and I am very pissed off because I did not record that live. So if I don't get it back, I will lose all evidence of the fact that I freaking Nostradamus is the whole thing. So those of you who were there, please verify that I predicted we would get the 8th pick prior to the draft. Yes. And I called every draft pick 4, 3, 2, 1 before it happened who was going to get it. I called San Antonio 4, I called Houston 3, I called Washington 2, and I called Atlanta 1. Saying, yeah, we saw it. Thank you, Rob Stradamus. Yes. Okay. Eyewitness. Yes, I did do it. Damn it. And then on top of that, we lost about $35. I think $40 to super chat. So if you did give a super chat or whatever, I think you'll probably get it back from YouTube. Plus, it was like at 5,000 views, bro. Like shit. That's like $100 of revenue. Fuck. Anyways, it sucks, but c'est la vie. Whatever. We move on. I don't know, man. I gotta tell you, there was a time on Facebook. Sometimes these like corporate entities, they shadow ban you for something, you know. I had this happen with Nikola Jokic once, where Jokic shoved Scotty. Right now, everyone who watches me knows I love Nikola Jokic, right? And I said on Facebook, I said someone should go punch him in the face for shoving Scotty like that, because I don't know, I was being a child. And then I got banned from Facebook for an entire week for inciting violence against Nikola Jokic. And I was like, no, he's one of my favorite players. I said it flippantly, but nevertheless, shit happens. Okay, so to those of you who missed the live, I talked a lot about loss aversion and why people, generally speaking, are really bad at calculating losses and gains, and they don't calculate them proportionately. If you want any evidence of this, look at sports betting, look at casinos, look at lotteries, look at game design, look at game theory, look at how people make their financial decisions, right? The example I gave was, if the bank accidentally credited you 20 in your bank account, you'd be happy. But if they took $20, you'd be really pissed off. Kind of like what we're going through right now, you know? So if YouTube accidentally credited me $80, I'd be a little bit happy, but they just took like $100 off my pocket. So now I feel kind of pissed. Nevertheless, these things do balance out. The Raptors have a whole new world of options that just opened up to them because they conveyed this pick. I'll take you through a few of them, and you know, I made a video specifically for this outcome, to give you an idea of all the players they won't be drafting. We won't be talking about these players because most of them will not be available. So you know, but we do get to hone ourselves now. There's a I want to say a bit of a loss here for the Raptors. So it's 2 L's that the Raptors have taken, right? Number one, that L number one, which is they go from 16 to 19 with that Indiana pick. I feel like that was a very significant loss that not enough people talked about, but that is a really big deal to me, just given how I feel about the players in the middle of this draft. I do believe that someone who will be available at 16 that you really want won't be available at 19. There might be 2 guys. So I'll be really furiously monitoring picks 1 all the way through 18 and seeing how many players I believe that we lost out on because of this bad lottery luck. You can call it bad lottery luck. But that being said, I know it was a punch in the face by YouTube and my stupidity to Raptor fans right now. Not only do you lose the pick, not only do you drop 3 spots with the Indiana pick, now you lose the live stream too. So geez, we need to trade Yak now. No need to keep him right now. Don't be so sure. Okay, aw, that's so nice. Thank you so much, Pepper Jack. Thanks. That's so nice of you. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's really meaningful. Paradise loss, so we get nothing. See, that's incorrect in my opinion. Oh shoot. Okay. Manish Sharma, appreciate you being consistent and giving us readily content to watch. Here's to make up for that little oopsie. Oh man, this community is awesome. Thank you so much. Big W for you, Manish. I really appreciate it. I really hope that everyone who gives these super chats can actually afford to do so. But thank you. I really appreciate it. Speaking of loss aversion, with those 2 super chats, I have just made up everything I made up that I lost on the previous live. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. And let us pray that YouTube does not, cancel this live for me flashing pictures that I did not take myself. I'm not being flippant with YouTube. They were right to do that. There are a lot of people who basically, stream things illegally and whatever. So I get it. Here are the pros to losing the pick. To those of you who haven't seen this many times, you now have a little bit more cap flexibility. Even the 16 to 19, if you end up getting a player at 19 that you would have taken at 16, that's a win. I just don't think that's going to happen. But if that does happen, that's a win. Like, let's just say the Raptors were targeting some second round pick and they were like, that guy's going to rise up to the 20s, but we're going to reach for him at 16. Well, reaching for him at 19 might save you a little bit of money too. So in terms of the 2 draft picks, right? Because that second round pick is going to be, probably it's going to be like that same contract that they gave Christian Koloko. It might be a 2-way. We don't know. So the Raptors will have 2 young players. Witness, thank you. Yeah. Jose saying don't breach again. I will not. Dear YouTube, I will not breach again. I'll be a good boy and I'll be on my best behavior for a little bit. But yeah. I apologize. I apologize to everyone who wanted to keep that conversation going. There were like 500 people in here, and then suddenly I saw Jason, his comment on copyright, and I was like, what's he talking about? And then I looked over the screen, I was like, oh shit, and then it cut out right there. That's so funny. What's hilarious is I swear, like I said fuck copyright when I saw that, and I started playing Arab Money in honor of Nadim's first super chat in Arab dinars. So yeah, that's so ironic. Anyways, so long story short, let's move on. In terms of what the Raptors get, in terms of all of this, in terms of their, hang on, just let me keep the super chats up here. In terms of what the Raptors get, they get a little bit more flexibility, right? They do get their pick back, next year. So that guaranteed, this is not hanging over your head. If something bad happens, you're not like, oh my God, are we going to be in the same position? Because you just saw it, right? You can be top 3 and end up at 7th. Do you know that? The Detroit Pistons literally fell 5 spots. Fell 4 spots. They fell to 5, right? Imagine next year you go 3rd. Now I just want to lay this out there for you. Imagine you tank so hard, but somehow Charlotte and Detroit out tank you, and you end up with the 3rd best odds at Cooper Flag, and you end up with the 7th overall pick, and you convey that to the Spurs. I think we would have people diving off of buildings, frankly. with how disastrous that would be. So you avoid that outcome. It's very difficult for me to say, take this loss now and just start with a clean slate. But, there's always this idea when somebody leaves for nothing. There's always this narrative in the Toronto media. Oh, the Raptors lost Fred for nothing. Did they lose Fred for nothing, or did they gain not having to pay Fred $40 million? There has to be a gain here. Oh, you lost Kyle for nothing. Did you lose Kyle for nothing, or did you get Precious Achiuwa, who inevitably turned into a second round pick from the New York Knicks? And did you kind of save yourself on having to pay Kyle? Like there's always this narrative around the Raptors of they lost all their players for nothing. It's like, did you want to pay Danny Green $13 million? Were you jumping over yourself to pay Marc Gasol $10 million? You know what I mean? Like, there's always that narrative of like, they lost all these guys for nothing. We lost these guys for nothing. And really, the only guy you really lost for nothing was Kawhi, and you couldn't do anything about that. But everything else, I think, like, you could argue that the team that took that player from you paid them more than you should have paid them. Loss aversion is so important, and I talked about it in the previous live, that people are just not great at dealing with loss, right? They're just not great at dealing with loss. I'll share a story with you guys that sort of hits home today. I have a bit of a loss aversion when it comes to people, right? I don't like losing people. Have you ever wanted to check up on an old friend on Facebook, and then you type in their name and you go and click on their profile and it says add friend? And this is like someone that you were tight with, and maybe even someone you were on the same team with, or something like that, or maybe someone you dated. I don't know, like whatever. Maybe someone you thought was your friend, and you go and click, and they're like, add friend, and you're like, oh shit. It's like you hadn't thought of this person for a year, motherfucker, but them unfriending you might have sent you into a bit of a mental spiral, right? There's something that happened today, yesterday, right? This is just me being completely transparent. Yesterday, on X slash if you're following Pensari basketball, Pensari b-ball, at Pensari b-ball on X slash Twitter. And I tweeted out something about Pascal Siakam on the Pacers, where I think it was like 2 days ago. I said that he got away with this foul, and he was holding Isaiah Hartenstein, and I couldn't understand like what the fuck the referees were seeing. And I got a lot of flack from people saying like, oh my God, you devoted your whole life to hating Pascal Siakam, whatever. And then whenever I see something like that, when I say like, oh, you hate this person or that person, because objectively I do not believe this to be true, I typically tend to block those people, because I have very clear boundaries. Gaslighting, no. Lying, no. Manipulation, no. Ad hominem insults, no. So I just don't deal with that. And frankly, people say, well, you say things about Will Lou, you say things about Fred VanVleet, you said things about so and so. And to that I say, if Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet blocked me on social, I wouldn't be crying about it. They should block me. I don't care. It's perfectly fine for someone to have a negative opinion about you. It's perfectly fine for you not to deal with it. So today I got a message from somebody who will remain unnamed, who I blocked. And I had not realized that this person was the same person that I'd had many, many conversations with throughout the year. And we just got back and forth about, what had happened. He's like, hey, like, if this is how you deal with dissenting opinions, that's not cool. And I said to him, I was like, what you said was, he said, you really like to, I'm paraphrasing. He basically said, you talk a lot of shit about ex-Raptors. I don't believe this to be true. Now, I don't know if this is, me being, having Asperger's or whatever, but if you say something to me that is objectively not true in a mathematical sense, my brain spirals. There are hundreds of ex-Raptors. I talk well about most of them. I've talked well about Vince Carter while the entire city slandered him. I talk well about Kawhi Leonard. I talk well about Andrea Bargnani. I talk well about pretty much every single ex-Raptor in history. I actually get mad when people talk shit about Kawhi. I got mad for years when people talk shit about Andrea or Vince or whatever. The only 4 ex-Raptors that I can consistently say I have not had positive things to say: Fred, Pascal, Mike James. This is going back to 2005. Chris Bosh, to some extent. Yeah, Chris Bosh. I don't usually have good things to say about Chris Bosh. Rafael Rougeau is usually the butt of a joke. Terrence Ross. Like, you can reduce it to 10. 10 ex-Raptors? I don't think that is grounds for a character defect. So if you're going to tell me that this is who you are as a person, I disagree with that. And so I just blocked him. And then I thought to myself, this guy is someone who has kind of tweeted out support towards me, told a lot of friends about Pensari basketball throughout the years. He also helped a little bit with Pensari basketball. He actually helped a little bit with Penn Dance marketing. So I didn't even know it was him. And immediately when he messaged me that and he said, I guess I'm going to go unfollow you, and he unfollowed me from some really big accounts and stuff, there was a bit of a loss aversion moment. There was like I just lost something. But at the same time, you don't really know this person. It's a pretty parasocial relationship. He watches your streams. You don't really know him. He crossed the line. He's still not apologizing for it. So to me, it was like, you got to move on. It's the same thing with relationships. Why do people stay with people that they don't want to be with? I don't know. Why do you stay at a job you don't like? I don't know, because not having a job is better than having a job. I feel the sooner you can get over loss aversion and the sooner you can see the opportunity in and the opportunity out as proportionate ideas, the better off you'll be. The example I gave earlier in the live that got cut off was, if you found $50, you'd be happy. If you lost $50, you'd be a little less happy, right? How many of you have found money? $2, $3, $5, $50, whatever. I have found $50 two times in the same fucking place, puddle outside. I don't know if this is God or what, but I found $50 in that puddle. I tell you, I celebrated it for like 10 minutes. I was like, oh my God. I told someone about it, whatever. I was so happy. Because honestly, if I find money in a wallet, I will return it. Purse, return it. But if I find cash in a puddle, I'm keeping it. Okay. And so I found $50 in a puddle twice. And I was just so excited about it for 20 minutes. But let me tell you, I dropped $20 out of my pocket once when I was like 14 years old. And it still means something to me. There's a proportionality of, hey, $20 used to mean much more to you when you were a kid. Fine. But why do we remember the losses so much more than we remember the gains? If you're a Toronto Raptor fan right now, you're thinking you just lost this. Think about all that you've gained. You've gained cap flexibility. I'll tell you this right now, and this is really important. Cap flexibility next summer, you have deferred. You have to think of this other way. This was not your pick. Now think of it differently. This was not your pick. This 2026 pick was not your pick. Now reverse the psychology of this. It's 2024 pick. This was not your pick. This pick was given to the Spurs. It was protected top 6 by the Raptors specifically because they knew this draft was shit. They knew last year when they made this trade. I told everybody when they made this trade the day after, this draft was shit. So they made this trade specifically to convey this pick so that they wouldn't have to live with it forever and ever. Now, the reason you wanted to keep this pick was because it ended up being a little bit higher than you expected it to be. And probably the Raptors expected it to be. When they traded for Jakob Poeltl, do you think they expected to be a lottery team this year? Hell no. They expected to be a playoff team. They expected Fred to come back. They expected Pascal and, Scotty to just have a kumbaya. They expected OG. They expected this whole thing to work. But the first domino of this was not trading for Jakob Poeltl. Actually, the first domino that changed the course of history for the Raptors was Fred VanVleet leaving and not being able to work it out, and the Raptors losing in the play-in. So once the situation changes, you must also adjust, but you can't go backwards. Time only moves forward. And so you can't undo something that you already did. Just like when you think about it, how bad do you think right now the Brooklyn Nets feel? And their fans, specifically their fans. How bad do you think Brooklyn Nets fans feel? Paradise Lost with a super sticker here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So who cares? Siakam wasn't a franchise. He gave us his all and helped us win a chip. COVID ruined his rise. Sure. And I don't think that saying that Pascal Siakam and the Indiana Pacers are frauds, I don't think that that's unfair. I don't think saying he's not worth $45 million is unfair. If you think he's worth $45 million, you pay him. But I'm personally happy the Raptors are not going to be the team that's going to pay Pascal Siakam $45 million. And you know what? I'll make you a deal, Antoine. Come back to me in 5 years and tell me if I was right. Tell me in 5 years if you think when his contract is in its final year, tell me if he earned $240 million over the 4 years. I'm telling you, man, there are teams with younger stars than him that have massively overpaid for those stars that are going to live to regret it once the full implications of the CBA come into fruition. It's not my job to be, everybody's buddy. And it's not my job to say the popular thing. It's my job to be well researched and to say what I believe to be true in that moment. And when that changes, I'll change my mind. If the Jakob trade, I was very much against it. Very against it. I was so against it that I screamed fuck on a live when we announced the trade. And I announced back then, go and refresh my takes, that this would be exactly what could happen. You don't know if this year is going to work. You don't know if Fred's going to come back. You could convey a really high pick. And it's not my job to be friendly. I mean, we lost like 100 subscribers back then for that. We lost 100. The most weirdest unsubscribe wave was over Will Barton. I think people were just so fed up of me at that point. They're just like, this guy's hating on everything the Raptors are doing right now. But Will Barton, I think Will Barton was the straw that broke the camel's back. We got stuck in purgatory. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, if you were here when we crossed 5,000 subscribers and we kept going backwards. So there was like this huge celebratory, like, oh my God, Rob finally crossed 5,000. The next day you look, it's like 10 unsubscribes, 10 more unsubscribes. And it just kept going and going. And I got to tell you, that bothered me. It bothered me a lot in that moment because I myself have a loss aversion. I have a significant loss aversion. I myself have stayed at jobs that I did not like for way too long. I myself have perhaps stuck on a take for way too long. I myself have been in a relationship for a year that I knew was fucking over, but I just kept dragging it out because, well, sunk cost fallacy. We all have this. We all have this. We don't proportionally look at losses and gains. But I'm telling you, it's never going to make your life better if you don't get over this. It is a bad idea. Okay? Truth. It is a bad idea. We need to be able to calculate this stuff better. So, look, the odds. I want to say the odds. What are the odds currently that the number 8 pick plus Kem Birch, who's not in the NBA anymore, plus the second round picks that you gave up for Jakob Poeltl, in totality, what are the odds, given the weakness of this draft, what are the odds that the sum total of all those assets, which by the way, cannot be summarized into one player. So we're going to have to take some sort of aggregate total because you can't equate one roster spot to 4. Okay. So let's just say the best 2 assets of that. What are the odds that over the next 7 years, when you're trying to build around Scotty Barnes, when you're trying to, what are the odds that from the lifetime of when you got Jakob Poeltl till when you lose Jakob Poeltl, that all those assets combined are going to add more wins to your roster? Now, if the Spurs end up hitting on Cody Williams and Cody Williams turns into Jalen Williams, we're never going to hear the end of this. But it will be illogical then as it is now. Don't think of it that way. Think of it as only the percentage odds. That's it. Don't think about whether the pick busts and then feel better. Don't think about whether the pick booms and then feel worse. It doesn't matter. I see a lot of you are really excited that the Raptors gave up the 8th pick and not the 7th pick. Were you that desperate? Were you that desperate for a win? What does it matter? 7th pick, 8th pick. Okay, I'll see your situation and I'll raise you a situation. What if the 7th pick ends up being like a star? Like, what if it ends up being Stephon Castle and he wins Rookie of the Year and he's like the best player ever? And the 8th pick ends up getting injured in Summer League and misses the whole year. Are you going to feel better? Okay, here's a question. What if the 8th pick and 7th pick bust, but the 9th pick ends up being Cody Williams or Ron Holland and they end up winning Rookie of the Year? Are you going to spend all year saying we could have had the Rookie of the Year, we could have had this player? Do you see my point? It's a little illogical until you know what the Raptors would have definitively done with that 8th overall pick. And frankly, the fact that you have Jakob Poeltl on your roster means you're immediately changing what you would have done with that pick. There's no reality in which you can go back and play this whole thing out, because maybe if you don't have Jakob Poeltl on your roster to begin with, you're not even getting this pick. You wouldn't be getting the 8th overall pick because he helped you get the 8th overall pick. Maybe you'd be getting the 4th overall pick, so you can make a case that really the biggest cost and the biggest loss of trading for Jakob Poeltl. 2 things. Number 1, you raised the value of Fred. Number 2, you worsened the value of your 2023 draft pick. Those are the hidden costs, right? Think about it. Those are the hidden costs, right? The Raptors were 6th from the bottom. I'll rehash this till I'm dead. Those were the real hidden costs of what that pick really cost you, or what that trade really cost you. Now, all of that is in the past. The Raptors have moved on from their core. They've given us, at least this community specifically, everything we asked for. We asked for Fred to be gone. We asked for him not to come back. They got rid of him. Toronto media can't stop talking about we lost him for nothing. We gained flexibility. Flexibility is important if you do the right things with it. I believe the Raptors, as much as you may be bummed about losing this 8th overall pick, 7th overall pick, if you are, I promise you, to some extent, the Raptors are in a better situation. Now, the question is as follows, okay? I want you to imagine 2 scenarios, okay? What's worth more right now? Right now, if let's just say an average team is offered right now. Okay, give me an example. I'm New Orleans Pelicans, right? I got Dyson Daniels. I'm not sure about him. I'm willing to trade him because I need a little bit more something else. I got too many of these wings who defend really well. I'm willing to trade Dyson Daniels, and I have the Spurs on the phone offering me the 8th pick in this draft. And I have the Raptors on the phone offering me their 2025 first round pick. Which pick am I taking? Top 6 protected. I'm probably taking the Raptors offer, bro. I'm probably excited enough about that 2025 draft that I'm willing to chance it. Now, if the Raptors end up picking 13th, we can talk about it. 8th versus 13th. Is that fair? Maybe. But if the Raptors end up picking 8th next year, you will be so happy they conveyed this year, right? The other thing that is not being talked about enough is that player that you don't get this year would have had to play for you. And that player probably would have made you worse before he made you better. Grady Dick was a lottery pick. He made us worse. I like Grady Dick a lot. I'm wishing for him to be successful. He made you worse this year. If you could have played almost any replacement level player who made his salary this past year, they would have helped you more than Grady Dick did. I promise you that. Promise. If you could have played Gordon Hayward, who was available for nothing, you could have picked up guys from the G League. We watched him go up against a bunch of guys in the G League who mopped the floor with him. You were playing him 20 minutes a night. You think Grady Dick made you better this year? He did not. That's why analytics matter. So Grady Dick will be better next year. You are developing already a ton of young players. Maybe it helps. Also, the conveyance of, picking next year versus this year also extends the timeline forward in terms of cap implications. If the clock on the prospect starts next year instead of this year, it's one more year forward in terms of when you have to pay that player on the raise, assuming you hit the player. Anyways, there's another thought process here that what if the Raptors do pick 13th or 14th next year? They narrowly miss the playoffs. Well, look how much less that player is going to make over the lifetime of their contract too. There's a lot of implications. Obviously, I walked into this saying I wanted the 1st or 2nd overall pick because I do like certain players. The other hidden cost of this is you probably won't get a chance to work out certain players. The double whammy of falling out of the lottery plus your pick going from 16 to 19 is if there is a lottery player who fears getting out of the lottery or maybe falling out of the lottery, they're probably not going to work out for you. Number one, they have to get a passport, they have to come to Toronto, et cetera, et cetera. It's always harder for the Raptors when they don't have a lottery pick to get those guys in the door. But the second part of this that I think will be harder for the Toronto Raptors is they're going to have this sort of like added implication that they don't have an appealing draft slot, right? They have the 31st pick, the 19th pick, which means those top 15 guys probably don't want to work out for you. The benefit of working out those guys, had you had the 8th pick, 7th pick, 6th pick, whatever, is if you work out someone that you really, really like, right? Like, for instance, let's say you work out Cody Williams, you like him, you work out Ron Holland, you really like him, and then at 6 or 7, you're picking between those two guys. But what if one of those guys slips all the way to 19 or 16? You know what I mean? So the double whammy here of losing both picks is you probably won't get to work out as many players. Maybe there's a pro to that as well. You don't have to focus on 100 prospects. You can hone in to a range between 19 and 31, and you can be a star in your role, as they say. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to focus on 500 things, try to just focus in on the prospects between 15 and 40 in this draft and just get the most thorough, most comprehensive background on those players. and double, triple, quadruple check. Look, I trust the Raptors in the draft. I generally always do. Okay. They don't make a ton of mistakes. And I believe they understand the implications of this draft. I believe this draft is deep. Where they are picking, it is great. It is a average 19th overall pick this year. If we want to rate it in terms of average value, 1 through 10, and you want to say the first overall pick is usually a 10, the fifth overall pick is usually a 6, the 12th overall pick is usually a 4, the 19th overall pick is usually a 3, something like that. If you want to say like in terms of that, I don't like to view it like that. I think of it more like all-star, like percentage tiers, So I think that most drafts, there's like an all-star between 1 and 6, another all-star between, maybe 5 and 13, maybe another all-star between 13 and what was it? No. There's 2 all-stars in the top 10. Was it usually 2 all-stars in the top 13, one more all-star between 14 and 30, and then another all-star between 31 and the end of it. And that could be your or all-star. I don't specifically mean someone who necessarily makes an all-star team, but someone who is all-star level, right? Like a Draymond Green. He didn't have to make an all-star team necessarily to be an all-star level player. Fred VanVleet, all-star. You know what I mean? All-star impact. Fred VanVleet has said all-star impact multiple times, right? So what I'm saying is, like, even though he's made one all-star. So like that, like Pascal Siakam, 2-time All-NBA. So the Raptors have been very, very good at lucking out and identifying those players, developing those players. I do believe, another thing that is worth noting is, if you don't get Jakob Poeltl, does Nick Nurse go? Do you get this development core? I think there's a lot of what ifism here. So overall, I'm happy with where the Raptors are. I walked into this draft expecting to lose this pick. I've been preparing people in this community for months that we were going to lose this pick, and we lost this pick. So, it is what it is. That being said, it's kind of funny that the team with the 10th or 11th odds ended up moving up in the draft. Kind of makes you think, isn't this the biggest poster for don't tank? You know what I mean? Because the Raptors, they tanked. Right? Let's be real. The Raptors tanked. And funny enough, it's so irrational to think you shouldn't have tanked. You still had better shot than Atlanta. And if you did this simulation again, you will always have better shot than Atlanta of winning the first overall pick. That's how odds work. That's how this worked out. And, personally, I don't, yeah. They rigged it so Trey could stay on the Hawks element. I don't think that's it. The front office hate is diabolical. Who we replacing them with, bro? I hear you guys complaining, but I don't hear solutions, says Christopher Lip. Messiah and Bobby need to be fired immediately. Sheridan, I sincerely disagree with you. You realize if you make $25 million a year, you are paying 60% taxes in California and New York. It doesn't exactly work that way for NBA players, man. We must hire someone from the OKC front office. Then we will get good. Usman Jang, Pokushevsky. There's a lot of flops there too. It's like it's really easy to be successful when you keep batting 16 times, right? Hey Rob, happy playoffs. OG hurt as always. Siakam can't shoot. Raps are low at the moment, but I'm optimistic. I don't think they're that low, man. I think I felt much, much worse going into last offseason. I'll be really honest with you. All I could think about when we went 13th last year was we should have been 4th. We should have been 5th. And look at all the players that you had an option for. I would take Bilal Coulibaly over almost every single player in this draft. I would take Asar Thompson, Amen Thompson. I would take a lot of those guys. The Raptors had a chance to get those guys last year. They didn't do it. Not to mention you would have been 1 year ahead with their development too. So, at this point, it is what it is. The Raptors, they traded their pick. It's over with. We don't have to hear about it all year. This is not a talking point anymore. We convey the pick. We move on. Please do not sit there and try to root against this pick. It doesn't matter. It's not our pick. It was never our pick. It was their pick. We traded it for a reason. We wanted to get out of this draft. We got out of this draft. The only irony here, we traded back into this draft later into this draft. But you know what's funny? I actually think the value at 19 and 31 is solid in this draft. And that's what I'm saying. 19 to 31 is really solid, you know? I'll give you an example. What if every single player between 1 and 30 was as good as Jamal McGlure? Every single one of them. This is the weirdest draft ever. I talked about 5 Klay Thompsons yesterday. What if every single player was some version of Jamal McGlure? A one-time All-Star, solid player, 10+ year career, often starter, sometimes backup, just solid, not superstar, not or like what if everyone in the top 20 was going to be as good as Antonio Davis, right? Well, then the further down you went, the better it would be. The further up you went, the worse it would be. Nobody wants to pick Antonio Davis or Jamal McGlure first overall. That's a bust, right? But if you pick Michael Olowokandi 45th, that's still kind of a bust, not going to lie. If you pick Eddie Curry 42nd, you're a genius, right? Parity is so important to understand. I keep trying to say it over and over because I think people just kind of like, when I listen to people talk, it seems like they don't really understand this. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just saying it is important to realize where different drafts peak and where different drafts fall. As much as I really like Reed Shepard, Nikola Topic, Zachary Reese-Hachey, Alex Sarr, none of them should be top 3 picks in most drafts. I think most of them would be low-level lottery picks. Where would Case and Wallace go in this year's draft? Top 4. Where would Asar Thompson go in this draft? Top 4. Where would Anthony Black go in this draft? Top 4. Where would Jarris Walker go in this draft? I think he might be the first overall pick in this draft. Not going to lie. I think Jarris would be a top 3 pick in this draft. So, hey, thanks a lot. We're not going to play Arab money again, but Nadeem, thanks a lot for this. Draft Edie this year and Isich next year. You really like centers, huh? We're going to become the biggest team in NBA history if Nadeem has his way. I'll be really interested to see if the Raptors explore Zach Edey, or even if Zach Edey will be available at 19. I suspect he will not be available at 19. Let's see if we can look at a mock draft real quick, and then we'll end this live, as I'm sure some of you would like to go and watch the New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. Thank you so much to the 301 of you who have come back to make up for the 500 of you that we lost in the previous live. Okay, let's see here. Tankathon.com. Is Tankathon back? Okay, there we go. So share screen. So this is the updated order. So this is the updated order. Wait, what? Oh shit, sorry. I had the window open and I was watching on YouTube. My bad. Okay, so this is the updated order, and here we go. What are thoughts on Jakob Poeltl's deal to Memphis for pick 9? Match salaries, obviously. How are you matching salaries? That's a really crucial part of this conversation, because Jakob Poeltl now makes $20 million. Kind of hard to match salaries for a draft pick, bro. Knicks Pacers boat has sailed. I'm assuming, I haven't watched. I'm assuming the Pacers are blowing them out. That's what I walked in with, that assumption that the Pacers would win today. I'm assuming. Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama. Why do they do that, though? Santi Aldama is no bum, bro. He's a really good young player. We are getting Cooper Flag. No way NBA allows Scotty and... We are not getting Cooper Flag. There's no way the NBA allows Scotty and Flag to pair up. That's nasty work. Bro, the only guy in the past 10 years to get Kawhi to play during the playoffs. Bro's goated. Okay. Masai goes into trade talks with teams thinking fleece. Meanwhile, he's the one that's getting finessed. Okay, cool. Let's look at can we sim the lottery again? Can we just live in this world for a bit? That's funny. Nah. Okay, so we are 45 days away from the NBA draft. We will obviously have you covered. with the NBA draft for the next 45 days, however. Starting probably mid this week, we can do like one prospect a day. I know last year did a little bit of work on Jordan Hawkins, Bilal Coulibaly, etc. So we can start looking at all these active players. The good thing for the Raptors is where is the strength of the draft in terms of positional need is exactly what the Raptors need. So whereas, maybe you can make a case that there are a lot of RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly style prospects at the top of this draft, whether you're talking about Rob Dillingham, whether you're talking about Ron Holland, whether you're talking about those guys. But maybe there's a lot of what you don't have on your roster that you desperately need later in this draft. Isaiah Collier comes to mind. So let's just take a look at a mock draft here, NBA draft room. So, actually, I prefer to look at Kevin O'Connor's. I forgot. Give me one sec here. Okay. So currently, let's see who Kevin has mocked 19th because that's going to be the Raptors' first pick. Whoops, went too far. So, in terms of who he has at 19, Tristan Da Silva fans rejoice. So the Raptors get a really interesting, very NBA ready, in my opinion, player. At 18, there's a player that a lot of people are starting to really hype themselves on in terms of, a shooter with, I think some serious potential. I mean, there's some good players here, man. Like we look at 16, Isaiah Collier walked into this year as a top 5 pick, projected top 5 pick. He's fallen a lot because of the season he had at USC, but maybe there's some potential there. Tristan Da Silva, I think, is going to be a really serviceable player. Kalel Ware, again, a lot of shooting presence, right? A little bit of Miles Turner stuff in him, right? Yves Misi, according to Kevin O'Connor, he will be available at 19. And if we pass on him, you're going to see me have a meltdown on live TV. Zach Edey, who a lot of Canadian fans are really excited about. Carlton Carrington, who I have not looked enough into, but will look into at some point for sure. Ulrich Comche, really interesting. Um, Athletically, very interesting. A little bit of Nick Claxton, a little bit of Serge Ibaka stuff, in him, and I really liked what I saw from him. Kyle Filipowski, there's a need fit there, right? Like he was kind of, I gotta be honest, like Kyle, we've been playing for so long, he's somehow been over scouted maybe, but he was a guy who was in the running for a top 20 pick last year. So the fact that he's outside the top 20 this year should give you an idea of where this draft is. Bobby Klintman, right? Interesting. Very interesting in terms of switchability. And Dayron Holmes, a guy who's really caught a lot of people. I think you're going to have something very valuable in this draft between these picks. I'll tell you who I'm really excited about. I think also is another guy who's very NBA ready right now, Terrence Shannon Jr., another guy who's pretty NBA ready. There is a player that I would look at in the undrafted heap if the Raptors can open up a roster spot and he's someone that they're willing to look at. He's currently 57th on his board, I believe, and that was Tristan Newton, from UConn. If you watch the Final Four, you saw what he did, right? And there's a lot of like intangibles with him, right? He's a big guard, he's physical. Yeah, he's a little bit older. He's 23 years old, but what a value deal, right? So there's that. Dylan Jones, again, a lot of seniors, with maybe some role player potential down the line. And then you have DJ Wagner, another guy who was kind of a top 10, top 5 pick coming into this year. Maybe he goes back to Kentucky. He probably should. And Baba Miller, another guy that has been mocked as high as, top 15, top 16, but has had a lot of issues shooting the basketball at times. But, I've spoken to people who like really, really understand him and know him and have met him. And frankly, they are very, very high. And I've watched tape of him, from Europe, and I think he moves so well. So he's all the way down to 66. So to give you an idea, the Raptors, with their infinite wisdom and their scouting chops, knowing that they knew months ago where they would be picking in this draft. They targeted that, 16, 15. Like when we traded that Indiana pick, When we traded for Indiana's pick, we expected it to be 18 or picking 19th. You know what I mean? 16 would have been higher than we were expecting. That would have been fortunate. But when we traded Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers, they were a pretty good team. So we expected them to get a little bit better with Pascal. We expected that pick to be in the 20s. We expected it to be 19. So we're exactly where we expect it to be, where we aim to be. And that is a good omen if you're a Raptor fan and you're looking at this like, do they have a plan? Yeah. Everything has been planned out to excellence. The only thing that they completely kind of fucked up on was how good that last year's iteration could be. Anyways, thanks a lot for all these super chats. Very touching and very, very nice. Very nice of you guys to do this. Manish, Pepper Jack, thank you so much for this. And thank you to all of you who've tuned in, 300, 400 people who floated in and out. Dear YouTube, please, please, please return, the previous live. I will clip out the hockey clip. I'll clip out whatever you want. Okay. I think the preamble to the draft was worth it. So yeah, I appealed it, but we'll see if we get it back. Anyways, enjoy the rest of the day. I'm really, really looking forward to the I'm really looking forward to the Denver and Minnesota game today. Curious to see what happens there. I don't really have a hot take or prediction. I did predict the Indiana Pacers to tie this series up 2-2. I think Denver will also tie up their series 2-2. Yeah. Rob is making sense. Rebuilds don't happen overnight or in a microwave. Exactly. Baba Miller is my lucky number. They asking 100K bail. Yeah. I don't think it's that serious, bro, but yeah. Masai loves his late first and early second rounder so he can draft his next big Cameroonian buddy. I don't want to assume, but that comment feels problematic to me. Anyways, Jameer Watkins, Jalen Bridges, great 31 are undrafted. Yeah, we'll see. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. And thanks a lot for tuning in. And I apologize for anyone who was tuning into the last one that got cut off abruptly, whatever. But yeah, good start to the offseason for the Raptors. Convey the eighth overall pick, get all this flexibility back. Potentially, if I tell you that, 45 days from now on draft night, the Raptors take back a huge contract attached to a first round pick in order to shed some salary and get Bruce Brown off their books, etc. Would you be happy that the Raptors now have 4 picks in the next 2 drafts? Would you be happy? You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyways, really hope the Raptors get one of Jacoby Walter or Ryan Dunn. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Ryan Dunn support in this community. We'll talk about him. All right, talk to y'all later. Peace. And hit like, subscribe, and all that.